One.
Hi, welcome to Shakespeare, the Sentence Breaker. This is our third quarter lesson, Introduction to Romeo and Juliet, Part 1A, Shakespearean Language. We all know that Romeo and Juliet was one of the most beautiful tragedies and stories ever written. But exactly why is it beautiful? It's because of the language. And it can be very difficult, it can be very complicated. And so it's important that we understand exactly why and how Shakespeare wrote those magnificent words and sentences. Okay, let's start by defining it. Of course, we know that Romeo and Juliet is essentially a love story.
Romeo and Juliet. Just a suggestion. Good title.
Well, it's not really a comedy, it's a tragic love story, and we'll know about the elements of tragedy as we go along. More importantly, it's a tragic teenage love story. So it's highly relatable. Even centuries after, we can see that the problems that occur in Romeo and Juliet's lives still occur today. And that is expressed very eloquently in the language that Shakespeare uses. Oh, and of course, they both die in the end. Okay, 1597, that's how old the first edition of Romeo and Juliet is. And it's not exactly what it looks like today, it's bits and pieces of the script. Okay, so we're lucky that we have a comprehensive story that we can follow. It's a starter tragedy. Shakespeare seems to be just uh, practicing his craft when he wrote Romeo and Juliet because his four masterpieces were still waiting to be written. And now we know that there are four important tragedies: the Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. Okay? So these are his masterpieces. Romeo and Juliet was just like a stepping stone into these the minds of these four titular heroes who all die in the end too. Okay? Let's look at the synopsis of the play through a trailer from the 1996 blockbuster movie starring Claire Danes as Juliet and Leonardo DiCaprio as Romeo. Why do we love this story so much? Because of the iconic scenes and settings. I mean, just think about the balcony scene, and who could have thought of that? But Shakespeare and a lot of stories later on would copy or at least try to emulate what happens in the balcony scene. Then you have highly relatable characters. They're like your neighbors that you talk about. They're like people in the news. Okay, so you will learn more about who they are and what they do in the next few lessons. Of course, we've talked about how beautiful the language is. That's really what this lesson is all about. And well, spoiler, they both die. So here's a synopsis of Romeo and Juliet. Yes, it's the greatest love story, but Shakespeare also creates a world of violence and generational
For I
conflict,
swear at sight, for I never saw true beauty till this night.
in which two young people fall in love and die because of that love. The story is rather extraordinary in that the normal problems faced by young lovers are here so very large. It is not simply that the families of Romeo and Juliet disapprove of the lovers' affection for each other, rather, the Montagues and the Capulets are on opposite sides of a blood feud, and they are trying to kill each other on the streets of Verona. So, tragedy of tragedies, their children fall in love. So every time a member of one of the two families dies in the fight, the relatives demand the blood of the killer. And because of that feud, if Romeo is discovered with Juliet by her family, he will be killed. Right. More on that later.
Love sprung from my only hate.
So, When we read Shakespeare's language, we will notice that his sentences are really strange. They're not normal. Okay? Why? Because he wants to create a specific rhythm. And he also wants to emphasize a particular word or a phrase. And he wants to give the character a unique speech pattern. Okay? He also uses inversion. So this is one example of how his sentence patterns are unique. Okay? The verb comes before the subject in the inversion approach. We would normally say he knows. There's your subject and there's your verb. But Shakespeare would say knows he. The verb comes before the subject. Here's an example from the actual play. Away from light steals home my heavy sun. Where's the verb? Steals. And where's the subject? Sun. At this same ancient feast of Capulet sups the fair Rosaline. Where's the verb? Sups. And where's the subject? Rosaline. And as you can see, there are phrases, an adverb phrase, and a prepositional phrase before the verbs. It makes it interesting. Okay, another form of inversion is that the object comes first, followed by a subject verb or a verb subject combination. So we would say he knows it. The subject is he. The verb is knows. The direct object is it. Shakespeare would do it differently. He knows. The object comes first, followed by the subject he and the verb knows. Here's an example from Romeo and Juliet. Me they shall feel. The object is me, the subject is they, and shall feel is the verb. Here's another one. Of honorable reckoning are you both. The object is reckoning, the verb is are, and the subject is you. Notice that this is a direct object that comes before the subject, while reckoning is the object of the preposition, which comes before the verb, followed by the subject. So that's inversion. But soft. Pause this video and take quiz 1 in Valiant Space. So part 1B is coming up right after the quiz that I will post in Valiant Space.